I've been getting comments across multiple videos from guys who have finally recognized their people-pleasing patterns, but now they're stuck asking a different question. But how do I even know who I am or what I want? They've developed the self-awareness to see that they've been accommodating everyone else for years, but when they try to figure out their own preferences, their own voice, their own direction, they hit a wall. The question feels foreign because they've always prioritized others over themselves. And if you can relate to that, this video is for you. Because what you're experiencing isn't just confusion, it's the natural result of spending decades never learning to build a real sense of self in the first place. And I remember going through this myself after age 50 when I was rebuilding my life after the end of a long marriage and some horrible relationship experiences. Long story short, I became aware of my people-pleasing nice guy patterns that I had been engaging in for decades. And it's not that I had no sense of self or no preferences, but I was so used to trying to keep others happy and deferring to what they wanted that I had convinced myself that I didn't need much and that I was fine. And when others were part of the equation, I honestly didn't know what I wanted a lot of the time. One thing I think most people don't understand about long-term people pleasers is that you didn't lose yourself. You were never taught to build a self to begin with, at least not fully. So instead of developing your own preferences, values, and voice, you learned to adapt, accommodate, and avoid conflict. You became an expert at reading the room, managing other people's emotions, and being who others needed you to be. But you never learned to read yourself. And think about it. When you were young, what got rewarded? Being agreeable, not causing problems, making things easier for the adults around you. You learned that approval came from being who others wanted you to be, not from expressing who you actually were. And that worked until you got older, and it didn't. Now, in middle age, when you finally ask, what do I want? The question feels impossible to answer because you've spent probably 40 plus years outsourcing that decision to everyone else. You've been so focused on avoiding disapproval that you never developed the internal compass most people take for granted. But here's what I want you to understand. This confusion is normal. It's the predictable result of a lifetime of prioritizing harmony over being true to yourself. And more importantly, it's fixable, but probably not in the way you think. You won't figure this out by sitting at home with an Excel spreadsheet trying to logic your way into an identity. That's just another trap. You can't think your way to knowing who you are. You figure it out by living, by making imperfect choices, noticing how they feel, and then iterating. And that's where clarity comes from. Not from obsessing, but from engaging. The point is to start messy and keep practicing. This is where the behavioral approach comes in, what I like to call practicing having preferences. This helped me get in touch with my own preferences, and I need to explain this carefully because it gets misunderstood. Here's the gist of what you do, and then I'll give you some examples in a minute. If you truly don't know what you want, then guess and pretend to have a preference in low-stakes situations. Clarity will come in microdoses from doing this. And see, the thing is, you're not used to making decisions that involve what you want. So the big picture idea here is to get started doing that in an imperfect way until two things happen. One, you get used to doing it, to expressing preferences. And two, you start to connect more with yourself. Repetition is the key here, not perfection. Now, the criticism of this approach is either that it's fake because it involves some kind of performing, or that it's unnatural because normal people don't always have a preference about everything. Let me address both of those. Yes, it is a bit fake in the sense that it's not solidly grounded in authenticity, at least not yet, and that's the key. But it's a behavioral approach to start bridging that gap between having no sense of your preferences and developing an authentic voice. It doesn't mean you're now going to start living a life pretending to be someone you're not. You're practicing making contact with something real before you're sure of it. And you're right, it is unnatural and would certainly be annoying that someone literally has a preference about everything. And that's not the point of this exercise. The reason during this training phase to always express a preference is that over time, as you do this, it will help you connect with what you actually want. And eventually, as you start to shed your people-pleasing ways, you'll learn that, of course, sometimes you don't have an opinion. And the answer to, where do you want to go for dinner, is sincerely, I don't really care today. Did you have something in mind? The point is, there's nothing wrong with, I don't care once in a while, but that phrase should no longer be the default answer with a people pleaser mindset of deferring to others. Instead, it becomes the honest answer at times. And I realize this over time. Sometimes I truly don't care. And I'm not trying to suppress my voice to keep others happy, so I just say so. It's okay. But it's no longer my automatic response. Here's what this looks like in practice. Start with small decisions. When someone asks where you want to eat, don't immediately say, I don't care. Pause, take a guess. The stakes are low with decisions like this, and you need to start speaking up to figure this out. How about that Italian place? You might discover you actually do have a preference, or you might discover you really don't care. But you'll have practiced the action of having a preference instead of defaulting to accommodation. The spirit of what you're doing here is what really matters. It's not about the choice you're making, but that you're practicing having a choice that's independent of what you think others might want. When you're choosing what to watch on Netflix, same thing. Don't automatically defer to someone else's choice. Just pick something. When a friend asks for your opinion on something, resist the urge to give them the answer you think they want to hear. Try giving them your actual first thought, even if it's different from theirs, and notice what that feels like. Now, these might sound like small things. What to eat, what to watch, what opinion to give. I wanted to know about who am I? What should I do with my life? Don't underestimate these small decisions. These micro decisions are the building blocks of identity. The signal of your own preferences will probably be very faint initially, but if you keep practicing, it will get stronger. This is key. If you can't access your truth in the small things, you'll struggle even more with the bigger questions of career, relationships, and purpose. The muscle you're training in those everyday moments is the same one that allows you to one day say with confidence, this is the kind of life I want to live. Here's another way to think about this. Instead of trying to figure out who you are, start noticing what feels true. When you're doing something and time seems to disappear, notice that. When you're in a conversation and you feel genuinely engaged instead of performing, notice that. And when you're alone and something brings you a flicker of joy for no logical reason, notice it. Those moments are breadcrumbs leading you back to yourself. And sometimes it's easier to find yourself by subtraction rather than addition. Notice what drains you, what feels false, what you only do for approval, and gently let that fall away. You don't have to replace it with anything immediately. Just allow it to create space for what's actually you to emerge. And don't wait for a lightning bolt of self-knowledge, a gut pull, a sense of lightness, a moment where something just feels right. That's enough. Follow it. Trust those small signals over the voice in your head that demands perfect clarity before you take any action. At first, you're looking for a dim glimmer of light in the fog, not for the lighthouse on a clear night. And if this is hitting home and you're getting value from this video, please support the channel by liking the video. Thank you. But there's a deeper issue here that goes beyond behavioral practice. You've spent decades with a completely externalized sense of self-worth. Your value came from how well you managed other people's comfort, not from how honestly you lived your own life. That's a fundamental rewiring project, and it takes time. Think of this like building muscle. You have to keep doing reps over time before you notice the results. Part of what makes this so difficult is that you've been measuring success by the absence of conflict, the presence of approval, the smoothness of social interactions. But developing an authentic sense of self necessarily involves some friction. People might be surprised when you start expressing preferences. They might push back when you stop automatically accommodating. And that doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It just means you're doing something different. Those who successfully move through this don't try to figure it all out in their heads first. They start taking small action steps while tolerating the discomfort of not knowing exactly who they are yet. They practice having preferences before they're sure of them. They risk disappointing people in small ways before they're confident about their boundaries. Most importantly, they give themselves permission to be confused and contradictory while they figure it out. You're used to having the right answer. So the idea that self-discovery is messy and non-linear might be the most radical thing I tell you today. The blessing and curse for many of us men is that we can be hyper-logical. We want concrete action steps to follow, and we want clear evidence that we're making progress. But the thing is, a lot of this work is really internal work, and the best mindset to have is to try to make peace with the ambiguity it involves. You don't need a complete personality makeover. You don't need to become someone else. You need to start making contact with who you actually are underneath all those layers of adaptation and accommodation. And that contact happens through action, not analysis. This week, notice where you automatically defer to others' preferences without even checking in with yourself first. Start inserting a pause between the question and your response. Use that pause to ask yourself, what do I actually think about this? Then practice saying it, even if you're not completely sure. Don't expect this to feel natural immediately. You're rewiring decades of conditioning. But every time you practice having a preference, every time you express an authentic thought instead of a safe one, every time you tolerate the discomfort of not knowing exactly how someone will react, you're building the foundation of a more authentic life. You've spent decades being who everyone else needed you to be. It's time to start discovering who you actually are, not through endless self-reflection, but through small acts of authenticity in real situations with real people. And if this resonated with you and you're ready to stop avoiding the discomfort of having preferences, subscribe to the channel. I make content for men over 40 who are tired of living small and ready to engage authentically with whatever time they have left. I'll see you in the next one.